All right, hello, welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. We are playing the One Ring Second Edition tonight, continuing the game that we started last year, 2021, so like a month ago. And we're going to get back to it. We took a couple weeks off for holiday stuff, holiday shenanigans, and we are now back and going to see where this goes. We are almost back to our full schedule. We tend to stream 3 days a week. Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Mondays and Saturdays are back. Friday, I think we're going to get back to normal next week. So come check other stuff out. So Mondays, we tend to alternate between Alien and Ultraviolet Grasslands. Fridays, we've been running through Delta Green and Possible Landscapes. And on Saturdays, we are doing the One Ring Second Edition. And since it's the new year, we have some plans for adding some other games, switching out some old, taking a break. And we got some new stuff coming to the channel, I think, in the next couple of months. So very excited to give that a try, but the One Ring, we're still somewhat newbie to this. I think noobish. Like we've done a couple sessions. We've done 3 sessions. This is our 4th, and so we'll kind of go from there. And I hope we'll see how it goes. We might bust out the journey phase rules tonight. See how that goes. We've messed around with everything else. We've done some combats, done some councils, done some skill endeavors. So I think the last 2 things we need to do is journey and fellowship phase stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see. What do I want to do? Let's just do introductions. Tell us who you're playing. What do you remember about your character? Also, how is everybody? Because we've learned in the time since we've been away, thanks to some updates to the Foundry system, that all of you should have taken at least one, if not more, conditions. And so, let's see. Tell us about your condition, and like how are you doing on hope? Which is a resource. Oh my God, Long, you're about to get attacked. So Melissa, let's start with you. Aurinial. How's Aurinial doing? I know you have 2 conditions. Do the one that Ashley doesn't have, and then we'll let Ashley do the other. So everyone can kind of talk about the different conditions. So how is Aurinial? And who is Aurinial?
Just peachy. Aurinial is not doing very well at all. Aurinial is both miserable and wounded. So during the combat in the last session, Aurinial got a jaw injury.
Broken jaw.
So that's bad. And that's got a 9-day recovery time as of right now.
Yep.
That was as it was rolled.
Right. And do you know what happens when you're wounded? Do you know the dangers of being wounded as a player?
If you get wounded a second time, you're dying.
Yeah, you go down. You're not outright dead, but you could potentially die. And then you also recover endurance more slowly. So during rests and things like that, you don't get as much back as everybody else does. So it's kind of got a sort of a death spiral in a way. Minor one, but it's there.
And
so that's the other thing to consider.
Separately, Aurinial is hopeless, which is my word for the fact that Aurinial is out of hope. Zero.
Out of hope.
Zero hope.
No hope whatsoever. So you might as well re-roll your character at this point and everything will be fine. So no hope. We'll let Ashley cover what that means in a second, having more shadow than hope. She'll cover that because it's interesting enough. Everyone's something. So it's great. So that's that. Well, tell us about Aurinial. So what culture did you pick? What's your calling, that kind of stuff?
Sure. So Aurinial is a ranger of the north, and she is a champion. And her shadow path is Curse of Vengeance.
Okay. Yeah. So Ranger of the North, champion, and you're fairly young too, aren't you? Like you picked.
21. Yep,
okay,
she is
very young.
Blonde, long braid, and then outside of that, kind of fairly typical ranger-looking gear and clothing and whatnot.
Yeah, young ranger looking to kind of earn your way in the world somehow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Or get a broken jaw, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. These things happen. It's probably not gonna be the first time. Or wait, no, it is the first time. It's not gonna be the last time. There you go. Okay, let's move it over to Floy. Long, tell us who Floy is and how Floy is doing.
Yeah, I'm Floy. I'm a young adult dwarf. Going out my first couple adventures. The call is the treasure out there. I want to find that. And last combat, took a couple bruises, some cuts. He's weary now. So he's gonna rest up.
Yeah. Do you know what weary means? Do you know what that actually the actual effect of that is? So weary happens. So in the game, you have endurance, which is sort of like HP in a way, but it's a little bit more all encompassing than that. But you also have a load score and everything. So it's like how much you can carry, etc. When your endurance hits your load score or goes below it, you become weary. Which means that you're kind of carrying more than you can. You kind of gotten beat down a little too far and everything. So that's what you got to worry about. But
my success die, if it's below a 3, it becomes a 0. That's what it is.
Exactly. If it's 3, 2, or 1, so it's not just
Right.
below 3 or lower. So it counts as a 0. So all those extra d6s you roll, if you roll that while you're weary and you roll 1s or 2s or 3s, they don't count towards your total to pass a test. But you can recover from it pretty easily. So that's the one good thing about weary, is that you can take that short rest and stuff, and you can basically get back at least a little bit, because as long as you're a decently strong person, which I think Floy is, right? So yeah. Okay.
And hope wise,
yeah,
it's been pretty good. I've 8.
Okay, yeah, you haven't been spending as much as Iriniel and Gilly have. You've been hoarding it, which makes sense. You're a dwarf, so you're greedy and you hoard stuff. So I guess that fits, that tracks.
We need someone to keep us like.
Yeah. It's gonna be rough. It'll be fine. You guys are gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. And we'll just, like we're getting close to the end of the first adventure phase, so like it makes sense. You should all probably just die now. We can start a new one. It'd be great.
No.
And then finally we got Gilly Kettlegrass. Ashley, tell us about Gilly and all that kind of such. Who is Gilly? How is Gilly?
Gilly is not doing too great. Like health wise, she's fine. But hope wise, she's pretty miserable. I have 2 hope and I have 2 shadow points that I got back when we were going through the swamp.
What does that make you, by the way, since your hope is depleted so much? So what is your condition called now?
I am miserable.
Yeah.
So when your shadow points equal your current hope score, you become miserable. So when I roll, if my feat die shows an Eye of Sauron, auto fail. And then eventually, if I accumulate enough shadow points that equal my maximum hope score, which is 14, all of my rolls become ill-favored. And you also experience a bout of madness if that happens. So that's not going to happen today, hopefully. But we'll
something to
see.
keep an eye on. For sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just checking packages. I might have just thought. I don't know. We might be pretty slow right now. I don't know what's going on with my connection. It's going pretty crazy right now. So there's some packet loss and everything. So we might be getting some lag here. I don't know. Yeah, it's looking pretty unstable. Yeah, my packets are just like, it's like a roller coaster. It's like wee. It's so amazing. So amazing right now.
Red light, green light.
Pretty much with like little yellows and orange. I think it's stabilized. at this point. So yeah, Gilly, you're miserable, which means you auto fail on rolls now if your feat die shows an 11 or an Eye of Sauron in that case. Sure. And you are low on hope, which means not as much to spend on stuff. So, and hope doesn't really, and like there's ways to kind of get a little bit of hope back here and there. But you can't really get kind of like a more fully replenished hope until the end of the adventuring phase, which we're not at yet, by the way.
Yeah,
we're getting closer, but
we're not
near. We're close. We're probably 2/3 of the way through my intentions for the first adventuring phase, so we'll see.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's say we get started and hope that my connection stays where it currently is, which is, it looks pretty great right now. So let's just kind of stick there. Now that I said that, it'll probably like plummet, and I don't know, who knows. So let's dive back in. We are a small. Oh, you're all younglings, right? Because Gilly's like only 33, and that's young for a hobbit. Floy's 69, which is young for a dwarf. Iriniel's 21, which is young for a human. Nice, yeah. He's unless it's one of those things like an old person says, like I'm 21 and I'm always 21. He's like, no, I'm 69 and I'm always 69. He's just like this 300-year-old dwarf.
And he just like winks, like.
Yeah, 69 years old. Yeah. But you're all youngins, and you all have been tasked by your patron Balin, son of Fundin, to help out some folks at the village of Combe, or the hamlet of Combe, which is one of the smaller hamlets in the Bree land area. Like Bree is like sort of the main city, the main town, and there's like these couple others that are sort of surrounding it. Combe is one of them. So we've been spending some time in Combe. Specifically, you've been looking into like the killing and stealing of livestock on certain Combe farms, because Rosa Goodborough is a friend of your patron who has asked you to look into this. You did some investigation. You kind of uncovered this goblins are responsible, right? So it's definitely goblins, orcs, etc. You try to track them a bit through the Chetwood into the Midgewater Marshes. You met an exiled Bree warden by the name of Hollis Oakstout and his two dogs, Hooper and Quint. You actually befriended him, which was really nice. And he told you a little bit about how things have kind of been a little dicey lately, and how there's been an increase to, in the area of over the last couple of weeks and months of kind of orcs, goblins, trolls, wargs, like kind of everything. They've been using the Midgewater Marshes to travel from the southern side of the east-west road to the north, and they all seem to be almost like migrating in these groups to the north for some reason. He doesn't know why. He also mentioned how he's seen like bandits, but that was a phrase that he kind of used sort of with air quotes that were also allied up with these orcs and these goblins. You eventually went back into the Chetwood, and you saved a missing woodcutter by the name of Elise Briarcleave. She confirmed a lot of what Hollis said, and she also told you that she saw a bunch of outsiders. She called them. They didn't look like, according to her, they didn't look like anyone she's seen. So it didn't look like people who are from like Combe or Archet or Staddle or Bree or any of the areas around here, but they look strange. And she saw them like in the Chetwood, working with these orcs and goblins, but then they stopped at one point and cleaned themselves up by a stream and put on clothes to try to look like they were Breelanders, and then they went into the towns. You all decided then that you were going to look around the town, see if you could figure out what the heck they were doing, and you did. You found that the group of them had gone over to the home of a man by the name of Oswald Breaker. Who Orinial you are probably maybe not friends with, but you're familiar with, as he's known to be something of an ally to the Rangers of the North, which is, you don't have many of those in this area. A lot of people kind of look at Rangers a little bit askance, a little sideways because of rumors and reputation, wrongly such. But you guys broke into his home after they broke into his home, and then a big ass fight ensued, which I was surprised that we just got to fisticuffs so fast. But you had a big old fight,
Before
and
we even knew how many people were inside.
yeah, you didn't even know how many people were there. You just started wailing. Floyd went toe to toe with a fairly big dude, tattoos. They were speaking a strange tongue that none of you are familiar with. Couldn't really deduce exactly what they were saying. A couple words were uttered multiple times: Rudauer, Angmar. And eventually, you killed a few, and more escaped. So some managed to flee, but you managed to win the fight, not without some injury and some injury to yourselves. So we are gonna pick up. I think we're just gonna pick up like right there, right? Should we just? So we're back at the Breaker house. I'll activate it so you can remember what it looks like. But we're back at the Breaker house. Now, the old man, if you recall, when you went into his room, he had this massive library. You can see that the bookcases were stacked like floor to ceiling, and the ceiling was much higher than other parts throughout the area. And it looked as though like these invaders, these outsiders, were looking for something. They ransacked it. They were going through the shelves, going through his items and things. And even though he was injured, when you managed to bring him back to like consciousness, he had been knocked out. He started scrambling. He was kind of bleeding from the back of his head. He had a big old welt where someone apparently cocked him over the head with a cudgel. But he started screaming about how they took something. They took the maps, took this and that. So we're going to pick up almost immediately after the fight. he is, we'll say, don't worry about where the tokens are on the screen right now, but we're going to say he's still kind of scrambling and going through his books. He's got kind of a ripped piece of cloth in the back of his head, trying to stop the bleeding of a wound. When you see him, like he's an older man, like he's at least in his 60s. And you know him to be somewhat of a miserly kind of widowed person here. So what are you all doing? I know some of you are hurt. What's everyone doing?
After chatting with him a little bit, Aurelia's going to need to try to figure out something for her jaw.
Okay. All right.
Because that hurts a lot.
Okay. So you see him as he once he checks, makes sure everyone's, he kind of runs back into his office and starts inventorying, going back through all of his things to see what exactly is missing, all that kind of stuff. Aurelio, you bust out some kind of maybe first aid or whatever. You take a look, the reflection in like a blade or something like that, or a pot. And you want to make a first aid roll? Is that what you're angling to do here?
Yes.
Right,
So
cool.
I imagine I'm only healing for that.
Yeah. So one of the things you can do if you get wounded is you can do a first aid roll. Either she can do it on herself or somebody else can do it on you, preferred. If successful, you can reduce your healing time. And so that's what Aurelia's looking to do, trying to set your jaw or something maybe. Floy and Gilly, what are you two doing?
It'll come out of the bathroom. Like, oh, you hurts.
And you see Aurelio is... What does it look like, Aurelio?
Oh. Is it like broken, like dislocated, broken?
I like to think it's dislocated, yeah.
Oh, I don't want to think it's dislocated. But yes, that's what it looks like. Yeah, I'm very much like holding my joint over here and like very carefully maneuvering my jaw.
Oh,
like,
she's bold and brass. You're probably just like, it's back in place.
That's true. Yeah.
This
is one of those is where I think Melissa and Aurelio are probably opposites in this respect.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah. Okay.
She
So you
talk,
got...
and she's like, it's fine.
Okay, so you got a success, and a great success at that, right? So
no, I didn't roll. That was my test roll.
That was hunting before. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, yeah, go ahead and give it a roll. Okay. So basically this will do is this will reduce your healing time, I think, by 1 day, because it's a success, but you didn't get any extra success icons on your D6s. So it's just 1 day. And this is the only time you can do that. So you can only apply like a successful roll once. So since you succeeded, it'd be getting a little over a week. All right. Floyd, Gilly, what are you up to?
Gilly loves books. That's her jam. But she's also torn between all these bodies that are in the house that need to be dealt with. So she'll start with like attempting to drag like the really big guy out of the house, and she'll quickly just give up on that because he's too heavy. And then she'll just kind of like dust her hands, and then she'll go into the office with him if he'll let her help him pick up books off the ground and like straighten him up.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, you try to pull this guy. The guy you try to pull has got to be like 6'5", right? And you can see that his clothes are ill-fitting. Like it's definitely got your kind of standard, your standard brownish coloring of just really mundane clothing, the kind of type of clothing that regular folk in a village would normally wear, and they would kind of blend into the background. This kind of rough spun wool type of thing going on. But you can tell it's like ripping at the seams here and there. Like he's got like a smedium on, essentially, is what's happening.
Okay, yeah.
But as you're pulling him, I mean, you're noticing like kind of tugging on a sleeve. The sleeve is sort of torn. He's got wounds from where like him and Floy went toe to toe, and you can tell that he's got some what looks like tattoos here and there. Some on the face, kind of underneath the eyes, kind of dark, almost not so much tattoos as like a darkening of the eyes, almost like a makeup that's on, and it looks to have been attempted to be smeared away, but some lingers. You notice that there's like tattooing here and there, markings. The idea of saying he doesn't look exactly like this is the type of, it's the type of person who would stand out in a very small backwards village, not backwards, very small, like modest village of Combe. Like this guy would stand out pretty significantly.
If Gilly notices the tattoos and stuff, what she'll do is she'll take out like her journal book, and she'll spend some time copying them as best she can to research them later to see if they have any like significance.
Okay, go ahead and add that to your notes. Like add that as an item, because that could actually be useful as for like a lore roll at some point later on. So that'd be a good thing to keep track of.
What would you call these guys? Just like invaders?
Whatever you want to call them is fine.
Okay.
Evil men, I think, is the all-purpose catch-all term. But there are men and women here. Floy, so you see Gilly try to move this body. It's almost comic. It's like a puppy trying to drag like their owner away. It's just not happening. And then she plops down on the ground and starts drawing some of these tattoos. Ireniel's cleaning up her wounds. What are you doing, Floy?
I'll speak with Oswald over here. What's his name? Oswald, was it? Mind telling us what happened to you?
You guys, what happened is I got attacked. Is what happened. And they stole. They stole my things. Is what happened. Oh.
And you can see he's just like grimacing every time he talks. And as you walk into his study, he's on his hands and knees and he's going through these big old piles of books and scrolls, loose papers, maps. You think some of them might not even be paper. It might be like scrawled on the back of a hide of something here and there. Some of the materials in here are incredibly old, and he's bleeding on some of it. And then every time like a drop of blood falls onto one of his belongings, you see like curses again. But from behind you can see like there is a huge welt on the back of his head. That is probably that he's taken some kind of trauma to the head for sure.
They said they took my maps.
And as he tries to sit up, he kind of gets really woozy.
They took maps of the Fornost and this.
And he just slumps down and kind of passes out right on top of his books.
Ireniel, can you take care of him? I think that's a yes.
Wrapped up a little bit.
Glomp.
So yes, she'll go over and try to do a healing first aid.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, see if you can like get him back to consciousness as he's kind of. We would know that he probably has a concussion.
Great success.
Yeah, the minute he starts, maybe you don't know it as concussion, but you would know this is not like a head wound like this. Got to keep them awake and alert, and so you kind of carefully tap him on the side, and he wakes up, and he's like, "Elizabeth, is it you?" He kind of reaches his hands out and kind of like taps on your face a little bit. Yeah. Oh, you look so.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Help me up, please. Help me up.
And Ireniel will help him up. And Ireniel did get an extra 6 during the roll. So whatever that does to help him.
We'll say, I mean, like you can kind of keep him awake, keep him alert, and like he can kind of get up and you can set him into a chair nearby. And he says, he looks at you and he's like,
"You look familiar."
And he kind of looks up and down at your dress.
A ranger.
We've crossed paths before.
Yeah. Might have me for a loss, lass. I apologize. I've had a very awful day. I'm afraid I don't know your name, or do I? And
Ireniel.
why is there a dwarf in my home?
Because we're traveling together.
I see. Thank you for both, and the Hobbit in the other room. Thank you. You saved me. I'll say that. It's these brigands. These
kind of kicks one of them that's laying on the ground.
These hill folk. Haven't much seen their kind. least not in the area. But they arrived at my doorstep early this morning, and they barged in and started wrecking the place, going through my things, looking for this and that. Did you get them all?
No, we did not. You were injured. I took some injuries. There were just too many of them.
I see. Well, we'll have to let the Bree Wardens know of this. Can't have bodies lingering in a home. They'll want to be aware of it, what little they'll do of it, of course. And if someone could send for Elcott, I've got the worst headache. She might be able to lend more aid. I'd be very appreciative. They seem to have been... Go ahead, lass, speak.
There's been a lot going on. We've actually been tracking some issues around with livestock and just all sorts of disturbances going on. And fortunately, this is not a lone incident.
Well, these weren't goblins or orcs, is what I've heard is the responsible for those attacks on the farms. Now, these were different sort entirely. These were hill folk. You know of them? Hillmen? Hill folk?
Heard stories.
Riniel. You have? And really now, they were in such boldness of their kind. They usually just scattered drifters and wanderers to the north and the east. Maybe by the Ettenmoors, lowlands and such. Small clans, and they keep out of the way of more civilized folk. When you're more seasoned, I'm sure you'll encounter more than one or two in your time. They are not friendly. They are not peaceful. They are cruel and vicious lot, as you can see here, but cunning is not something I would normally attribute to them. Dressing as our folk and breaking into my home, and it's not something I would have expected from them, nor would I expected them even have the ability to read. And yet they were searching through my things like they knew what they were looking for.
Gilly will kind of like pop her head up into the doorway, and she's like, Elise mentioned that she saw them working with the orcs.
That's not too surprising. I suppose they are, like I said, evil courses through their blood, their veins. Well, maybe that's unfair, but they, descendants of traitors they are, and most likely they still are to today. Didn't realise there were that many at all. But, no, they were searching for information. Maps, things like that sort. Of Fornost terrain. Are you familiar? He kind of looks over at Ariniel when he asks that question. Have your people taken you there? Have you visited?
I've heard.
Yeah. He looks over towards Gilly, towards Floyd. You people probably would know his Dead Man's Dyke. Just up the Greenway a few days. Maybe even Norbury. It's an old ruin now, but once it was a great city. Long before any of us, of course. Now it's basically just a haunted place. Only their folk. She kind of nods over the direction of Ariniel. Only her folk really head there now. Most keep away. Ghosts of those who once lived and served maybe wander about, but otherwise, most steer clear. Most right-minded folk, that is. No offence. While they were searching for my things, I'm not quite sure. But now that they had purpose in coming here and that they align with these orcs, you say. That doesn't sit too well with me.
Do you know of anything that they would want from there?
Well, the place is mostly ruins. Now, rumor has it that the last king's got a chamber was buried when the city fell, and more than one treasure hunter has gone searching in there, I'm sure, for this or that. It's possible there might be something in there, but like I said, most don't go in there at all. Those that do really only go there with reverence, like Aurelius folk.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been there myself. I've just done the reading, but used to be a great capital for a while. But it has a very tragic history, that place, but a great one as well, for those who care to read about it and learn about it. Not that anyone around here much cares. He's got kind of like a bitterness to him as he's like looking around at his books, which are now, you can tell, kind of like you, Gilly, just this guy just loves into it. From Gilly, from what you would know, you live in the area, you would know, you'd have a little bit of a reputation. He has a little bit of a reputation. Aurelius, you might know this as well. He's got a reputation for being kind of a recluse.
Mm-hmm.
He's a widow. His wife died years ago, and since then he's kind of keeps to himself, just reads his books and things. You would imagine, considering like how curated and well kept his collection is, this might be all he does. Like this is it right here. It feeds information to a ranger passing by looking for information on the area, like history of the area, that type of thing. He's a scholar of the area, basically, of the northern parts of Eriador and everything.
I'm a little bit in heaven right now, regardless of the circumstances.
Sure.
So Aurelius would have kind of jumped in and when he said like, oh, no one likes to read anymore, Aurelius would have pointed to Gilly and said, my friend here shares the hobby with you.
Hobby.
I would love to learn about the tragic history and the greatness of it.
Yeah. What do you know of the Kingdom of Arnor?
Could I do a lore roll?
You absolutely could. That sounds like a wonderful thing to do. Absolutely. Yeah, throw out that roll lore. Or lore roll. Roll lore?
Oh, failure.
You know that the area that you're in was once called it, and some people call it that, the specific details of which are probably not too familiar to you. But yeah, you know that this once the land here used to be called Arnor at one point.
Yeah, so she just kind of tells him that, and she goes, "But I would love to learn more."
Hmm. Well, I'll spare you and your friends too deep of a lesson, especially since I really need to get my head checked out. But over 1,000 years ago, there was a horrible war that took the area, basically, and even before that, there was a kingdom. Oh no, this place was once called, and well, it was a wonderful place until greed and separated it into 3 kingdoms. There was Arthur Dane, Cardolin, and Rudour. And, well, sad to say, certain events transpired to separate a once glorious place as Arnor into 3 less glorious but well-intentioned kingdoms, and the shadow grew large to the northeast in a place called Angmar. And they got into the minds of the hill folk who lived in Rudour, and infighting began, and again, we don't have the time today to go into it all, but suffice to say, her people, and he nods over at Reniel, I presume, used to be a lot more than just random drifters and scattered clansfolk. It used to be honor and glory and decency and civility. And over time, it all fell apart. Fornost is a place that changed hands more than once. Major city, capital, and then for a time, the forces of Angmar came down from the northeast, allied with Rudauer. They took it over and they sat upon it for some time. Until they were driven away. But even after driving it away, the people that were left were just a small drop in a very, very large bucket of what this place used to be, and now we are left with Bray lands and the Shire, with the scattered ranges here and there in the North Downs, and we are a pale copy of what we once were. As I said, very tragic.
Looking at the pictures of his wife around there, does she look like she's a Ranger of the North?
It's hard to tell.
Hard to tell. Okay.
Yeah, I mean she's human, obviously, but hard to tell anything more than that. Just from because they're sketches, they're just like maybe his, maybe somebody else's, just sketches here and there.
Okay. How he's just on the outskirts of town, right? Of Combe?
Yeah. He doesn't. So, he is not in the middle of Combe whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not an issue while they stay here, Gilly would probably run to go get the killer.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, we'll say you go and he's still kind of telling some stories. He's kind of regaling you a bit here and there, and every now and then he can kind of nods off a bit, and you come over and you snap your fingers in front of his eyes, and he pops back up. And sometimes his stories drift into history. He starts talking about these lands, but sometimes it becomes personal, and he kind of starts talking about his wife and this and that, and some time passes. But eventually you see Alcott Sweetroot, who helped you with Elise Briarcleave. She shows up. There's a couple of these Bree Wardens that show up as well with her. We'll say that you were able to grab one or two that might have been wandering about the streets, the central village court area of Combe. They come in, and we don't have to play it all out, but over the next couple of hours, testimony is given, explanations for what happened. Oswald, of course, speaks well of the three of you, and defends what happened here, and even Alcott speaks again to the three of yours. Your ability, how you rescued Elise and things like that. So what looked initially kind of like a strange thing, there's these villagers dead on the ground in front, you all responsible. Eventually none of it seems to be too much, doesn't really cause you too much grief, and people, these Bree Wardens start to move the bodies away. We get kind of deep into the evening at this point. The sun goes down. Alcott's still there, kind of tending to Oswald, to Irenial, to maybe even to the two of you if you have bumps and bruises and things. But deep into the night, good hour or two after sunset, he'll pull you all aside and he'll say, if I could beg your pardon, I've given some thought to what you said before, and how these hill folk might be allied, you said, with these bands of goblins and such, and that kind of organization. It's not a characteristic of them either, really. I wonder if I might beg of you a favour.
You can certainly ask.
Kind of gives you a side eyes glance when you say it that way.
Gilly just kind of is like, oh, of course. How could you?
I've got my jaw that's sort of closed shut, so the words might have gotten a little mumbled.
I've had a bit of time to go through some of my things. They've got to grab some old sketches of what the city looked like in its glory day. Some histories of the last king, Arvidui, and those that came before, and a few books here and there that are likely we'll never see again. Gifts from friends, from my wife, from others, trinkets and things. Well, I think it would be useful to warn those that watch over the city, just in case something more will befoul it. If they take what they've gained and learned here and try to go raiding throughout that city, defiling that place of the dead. There is a ranger, one of your kind, Irenial, who's kind of a self-appointed guardian of Fornost, tends to keep camp in the North Downs and the hills overlooking the city, and ranges thereabouts between the valley of the North Downs and the Weather Hills, and keeps close watch in case any treasure hunters and bandits and such tries to go pillaging and ransacking through the walls. It's a fellow by the name of Talendil. If you could take word to Talendil that the hill folk have come west and south and have their eyes on some sort of design on the ruins of the city, that would be much appreciated. It will be some time again before he comes down to Combe. So insistent he is on keeping perch over the city, and it's not uncommon for folks like yourself or any other to be sending, communicating messages and such. If you tell Talendil I sent you, he'll know that you should be taken seriously.
I will be very happy to send the message along.
And if you happen to find those stragglers who stole my things and were able to recover, I would be even more grateful than that. Especially since, well, they took a crystal figure that had nothing to do with the city at all. It was probably just a shiny thing to them, but it holds a bit of value to me. My wife, well, she gave it to me when we got married, and I wouldn't mind having it returned if you could.
Gilly kind of just, like, she tries not to go too soft on him and make him feel awkward about it, but she'll, like, pat his shoulder, well, probably more like his elbow, because she's kind of...
Climb up on a stepladder? Yeah.
Yeah. If we do come across it, well, if we come across it, we'll bring that to you.
Well, and you can see he's not good with people being nice to him, and so like when you kind of tap his shoulder and everything, and you're nice to him, he's kind of very awkward. Thank you, little one. I appreciate it. Now, if you don't mind,
gotta stick together.
Right. You've got some reading to do. I'll tell you what. You when this is all when this task is taken care of, if you want to take a look at some of my collection, I'm sure we could find an arrangement.
Gilly looks like a kid in a candy shop. Like, her eyes just go absolutely wide, and she's like, yes.
And he'll say, the place is a bit messy. I definitely need someone to clean it up, and I think that in exchange for a few books, afternoons worth of reading might be suitable, don't you think, little one?
Yes.
All right. Now, if you don't mind, I do need to get some rest. But thank you again for what you did, and be careful on the travels. These hill folk, they might be. You might have won the day here, but there were even more when they first arrived, and some left before you did. There was a very large, red-haired woman that they seem to take orders from. But she didn't linger too long. Set them to task, and off she went with some of my things. Anyhow, be well. Give my best to Talendil, and we'll see you when you return from your journey. All right.
Glad that we happened to come by today and could help you.
Yes, yeah, indeed. So you all take your leave. It's evening time, so you have. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to rest somewhere? I presume do a prolonged rest.
Yeah, I assume we kind of had a short rest while we were chatting with him.
Oh, did you now? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, I think there's like you guys. I think it was lunchtime when you first arrived, and you've been with him since then, one way or the other. So you can certainly have done that, and then we can dive into. So yeah, short rests once per day. You can cover endurance points equal to your strength rating. However, Aurenial doesn't affect you because you're wounded.
Got it.
But the rest of you, the two of you, can take endurance back equal to your strength rating. Do you
There's
go back
a
to the
rest button also on the sheet?
Yeah, you can hit the button. Do you go back to your? I think you had the Comb and Waddle is the inn here. Like you had rooms, even though you didn't stay there last night. You just totally imposed upon the Sweet Roots.
Yes, we did.
Do you impose upon them again, or do you go back to your room at the inn?
I say we go to the inn
Yeah.
this time. I think
Which is closer.
Which is closer? I don't know, man.
Let's say the inn is closer.
Yeah, that's
Let's say the end. Let's say the end. Stop imposing upon these people. I just noticed there's someone behind you. Is that why you haven't been talking long? It's because there's somebody in the room and you're embarrassed to role play in front of them?
No, I just kept making a little noise back there.
Yeah, I see him. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and do your prolonged rest. So you can recover all lost endurance points. If you're wounded, Aurenial, you only recover endurance points equal to your strength score. And if you were at 0 hope at the start of the rest, you can regain 1. And optionally, you can spend fellowship points while resting to regain additional hope. So you guys have 5 fellowship points. 3 because you each get 1 at the start of the session. And then there's 1 from your patron Balin and 1 from Gilly's special cultural ability. So that's 5 total for the group. If you spend them now, you can get hope back, but the ratio is 1 fellowship point per point of hope, and not for the group, for one particular character. So it's up to you guys if you wanted to spend it.
I'd like to spend at least 1.
Okay, to get 1 hope back, so you no longer miserable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty close to miserable, but like I'm on the cusp, you know.
Well, you are miserable. I think you're even because you're even
Yeah.
right now, so you should be miserable.
No, but I
So
mean, if I go
yeah.
up 1, I'll be.
Yeah, you're feeling you're excited,
What
right?
miserable is there?
So, well, there's the optimism of like knowing that once you finish this task, you can come back and start reading some books
I can
and
read
stuff,
some
right?
books. Yeah.
Cheers you up, yeah. Okay.
So then the question is if I want to spend 3 to get myself unmiserable, because I would have to spend 3.
It would put you guys down to 1 fellowship point left.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So all of you on your character sheets just track fellowship points. You should have 1.
We got 1.
Okay. All right. So
Yay, I'm
morning's
not
gonna.
miserable anymore.
Okay. Very nice. Morning will come, and you all have been tasked to deliver a message. Before you left, he probably gave you like a folded up, stamped little piece of a little document. Probably handed over to Aurenial specifically
to deliver to Talendil. So he's asking you to leave, basically. He's asking you to kind of go on a journey. But there's other things going around. There's other things going on. So you guys tell me, when morning comes, what do you want to do? Like, you've got this task to go journey north. When you wake up in the morning, you don't hear any stories of raids over the night. So it sounds like there weren't any additional attacks on livestock last night. You hear at least Briarcleave is doing a little bit better. You don't think that you think she's recovering. So everyone's kind of recovering. So it's just a question of whether you wanted to take this task, which you've kind of agreed to already and taken the note, and go do that now, or if there's something else that you wanted to do in the interim.
Aurelian will say to Gilly and Floy, if I have an opportunity to touch base with one of my fellow rangers and continue to help Oswald, this seems like a task that I would want to prioritize.
Gilly would agree with you, because at least like getting somebody else to watch, like give him warning just in case trouble might be heading his way, because they took maps and stuff. So that would also.
And the whole point of
Gilly's.
going there is to kind of warn the area, which is definitely something a ranger is going to want to do.
Yeah, so the wardens know, or the Bree wardens know about this attack and stuff now. So they'll do whatever they need to.
You would think.
Yeah.
We would hope.
We hope.
We
Yeah.
hope.
Haven't seen it so far that they've really been too effective with what's been going on, but
Maybe what we can do is we'll warn this guy, and then if we need to, we can come back and warn Balin that it's more serious, and like we can use this opportunity to see how serious it is over here as well. And then
Right. And you guys know that Balin is over in the Prancing Pony and Bree, so you could which isn't that far away, so you could always touch base with him if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Before or after.
I think maybe we'll do after. So we'll do kind of like we'll survey the site and see if there's increased activity over there as well.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha.
do the journey first and then have more information to update him with upon our return.
Yeah, more like comprehensive.
Sure.
If we live.
Okay. So before, we're gonna dive into the journey rules here in a sec. Then, do you guys have mounts?
Aurelian does not.
Or no? Okay, so you guys aren't gonna have
Do we
mounts. It's just
start
good to
with
know. Some of you might, depending on your what's it called, standard of living.
I do.
Yeah, it's really only
I think
useful.
you're the only one.
Yeah, you need to have everybody. So
Yeah.
it's, if everybody doesn't have it, then it doesn't really work. So it'll
Maybe
mostly
Frank
you
can
could
just
still
walk
bring
around
them.
Alongside
you can still,
carrying stuff.
yeah. Okay. So let's dive into these rules then. It's our first journey. I'm very excited to get into this. Let me bring you back to the big map. This is all right, so should be doing it there. Are you guys back on the main map?
Not yet.
All right, go ahead and just click on the area door tab, and you can go back there yourselves. Okay, so let's just walk through, since this is our first time doing this, and we'll probably do this a lot more as we play. So let's just kind of go over how this is going to work. So the journey phase is sort of like a montaged, event. It's not the most, it's not like something where, it's not like a hex crawl, but it kind of is. So you can see that, there's a couple different steps that we have to go to. You guys have different roles, and there's a couple things that we do along the way, but it's really about kind of narrating the story of you going from one place to the next. So I do have rules. If you guys, I did kind of write abbreviated rules, kind of took some notes for you guys. If you want to look over in the rules and resources folder, there's a journey phase thing you can take a look at there. I'm trying to stop there we go, finally. I was trying to stop the music because it was on the same, it was just repeating over and over again. I was getting lulled into sleep with that. Okay, so when we do a journey phase, there are 4 roles that have to be filled. Roles as an ROLES. There's guide, there's hunter, lookout, and scout. Since we have fewer than 4 people in the party, one of you will be taking on 2 roles, basically, the guide and one of the others. The guide is in charge of all decisions concerning the route that you take, when to rest, how to designate supplies, etc. And they're gonna be the ones who makes a travel roll, basically, to help steer the entire party during their journey. The hunter is in charge of finding food in the wild, and they will have to be rolling hunting at some point. The lookout is in charge of keeping watch, and that's going to be an awareness roll. And then the scout is in charge of setting up camp and opening up new trails, and that's going to be an explore roll.
So who's best at all of that stuff with all of us?
Exactly.
I've got hunting that is favored, and I've got 2.
My awareness is favored with 2.
Your guys' is travel and explore.
You're good with travel and explore?
Well, I have 3 in travel, but it's my lowest skill. A heart. I do have 3.
Yeah, having 3 is better. I have 1 in travel.
Okay.
And then explore, I have... Where is it? Am I looking right past it? I have 1 in explore.
Explore's 2. So I could be the guide and scout if you guys don't have any better.
Okay. Yeah, Explorer is favored, and I've got 2, but it's also wits, which I have. It's 18 for me, so that's really hard. So, looks like I got hunting.
Okay, so guide, that's going to be Floy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, and then hunter is Irinial. Is that correct?
Yep.
Lookout
All right.
is Gilly.
Lookout's Gilly, and then Floy, you're also going to be taking on the role of scout as well.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay.
Which is awesome.
All right.
I have the most hope.
So, got our roles chosen. So the next thing we do is we hit the map, and so you guys can all see a map of Area Door. You can see our little travel token down by Bree. What you guys now get to do is you get to literally draw the path you want to take, and you're going to get to use the tools and everything, because there should be drawing. You guys should have access to drawing tools. If they're not working for you, I'll do it, but you should have access to it. I would say let one person do it, whoever knows how to use them. So you guys are looking to go northward towards Fornost, but specifically it was like in the hills east of Fornost. So you're kind of looking to go somewhere around here or here in the kind of the North Downs. So you see where I'm pinging?
They're not popping up.
No, I don't.
Oh,
I think you guys disconnected from Forge because I got that earlier, but I can see it.
yeah, I had to reload my forge.
Oh,
So you can
let
see
me
Floy.
reload. Then
Yeah.
and see what happens.
So just east of Fornost is where you guys are going. And so in order to actually do a journey, you have to like have some general idea of like where you're supposed to go. And so you know that Talendil takes up, camp somewhere in the hills east of Fornost and tends to range anywhere from Fornost to like the valley between the Weather Hills and the North Downs. So you know that you're going to find Talendil somewhere in kind of that general area, east of Fornost. So you kind of have a good idea of generally where you're supposed to go. So now what you basically have to decide is where, what route you want to take. As a GM, I have like my own map on the side that has hexes and things. And so once you guys draw your line, I kind of figure out based upon like the hexes of that your lines hit, like, how long it'll take. Each hex is basically a day worth of travel. But there's certain places like swamps or high mountains and stuff that might take longer. You don't always want to do like a straight line because sometimes you might want to go around things. Roads, trails tend to be a little bit better. Like there's, you have to consider like if you're traveling over rivers, is there like a bridge? If not, then like, and you're just cutting across a river, like that's not necessarily going to be easier because how are you going to get across the river? So it might make sense to kind of take a longer route. So it's not just like simple point A to point B. So you guys basically talk it out now.
Can
so-
you reping the map where we're headed
Sure.
now that I've reloaded?
Yeah. So just basically around just east of Fornost is where you're looking to go.
I mean, already this nice main road we can just take up.
But remember, we knew there were bandits on the road.
Yeah, so that road is called the Greenway. It used to be called the North-South Road, et cetera, et cetera. So it's in heavy disrepair. So even around here, it's like been overrun with like grass here and there. So when you're thinking of it in terms of like a proper road, it's not guarded, it's not well kept, beset by bandits, et cetera, et cetera. There are decent people there, and there'll probably be scattered homesteads and stuff. Like you all would be aware of that from time to time. But when you think of the north, like the Greenway is actually a fairly dangerous road. But the wilds are dangerous too. So you never know. So it's kind of up to you guys.
All right.
So like, what have
You can go up halfway and just like cut diagonally towards their destination.
Okay. Why don't you draw it out, Floy?
Yeah, you are the guide. You might as well.
Something like that.
Let me
That works.
reload
Works for me.
my other foundry thing. Roads. They don't need roads. There's no roads there anyway. Hey, Roger, how's it going? I'm reloading the foundry on the stream so that they can see what you're drawing. Okay. All right. So then what I do is I go onto my little GM layer and I take a look at like the map that you just did, like the path you just drawn out, and I kind of figure out in terms of like the hexes essentially how you're doing it. So let me get that situated, and that will kind of determine certain things. You're going to be basically on the road for most of the way, right?
Yeah, just adjacent to the road.
And then you're probably going to have maybe 2 or 3 hexes where you're off-roading it. Okay. All right. Okay. Cool.
Let's see what happens to us.
So then, all right, well, there's more to it. So this will be faster in the future, I presume, but maybe not. All right. So then we've got that situated. So you got your path. Okay. So that's the route you guys are going to take. And then I have like on my screen, I've seen kind of how it goes. There's some more things you can do because there's like these travel logs that you can do if you want to like sketch or take notes and things. All right, so now that we've got that figured out, you guys go on, you guys start to travel. So like we'll say you spend the morning kind of going around, kind of collecting some things, getting your stuff ready, getting some whatever kind of things that you might need, some food, some water, filling up your canteens, that kind of stuff. And eventually you head west out of Combe. You bid adieu to Oswald, to the Sweet Roots, to whoever else you might have encountered. Let Elise Briarcleave know that you're leaving, that kind of thing. And you start heading north. You get out onto the road to the Greenway specifically, and you start heading north for a bit. Now, the road itself, like I was saying before, it's got that name, the Greenway, because grass has effectively grown up over it in so many ways. You can still see what looks like road beneath it. It's spliced together here and there, but you're not going to find like a very perfect, well-kept, well-maintained road. It hasn't been maintained for ages, really. And you're not the only people on it. But the people who are heading north from Bree don't really tend to be, it's not a very avidly traveled road. You might find rangers like Arinial traveling this road here and there, and you might find some other folks who just don't really want to live within the hamlets or the town of Bree and the other villages, and they might kind of live on some kind of distant homestead here or there. So there's other things that might potentially happen. So then what we do is I need the guide to make a travel roll. And so this because periodically along the way, you're going to have events and things like that. And this sort of determines how well he does in this travel roll, determines how regularly, how frequently, how quickly like the first event occurs. Events don't necessarily have to be bad things, but most of them are challenging and they cause fatigue. They kind of slow you down. They're things that you have to accrue over time, and that could have an effect when you get to where you're going. So Floy, I need you to go ahead and make a travel roll. As you leave the confines of Combe, you get onto the road, onto the Greenway, and you start heading north.
Success, 18.
Yay.
Okay. So I'll peel the curtain back just a little bit so you guys know. But like success means that it takes longer for an event to crop up. Failure means it's quicker for an event to crop up. And the more events that you encounter, the more fatigue you gain, the more potential shadow you come into, all that kind of stuff. So the next thing you do, this is the lore master side of it. What I do is I kind of take the sort of his role, and I kind of figure out exactly along the way, counting like hexes effectively, where that particular event transpires. Okay. So with a success, it's 3 hexes. With a fail, it's 2. So it's just a base success. Okay. So you guys get on the road. We'll say, Gilly, you brought your little pony. Didn't you have a pony? Or is it Floy who has one?
I have a little pony.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Iriniel doesn't have her own steed, and it's not very common for people to be traveling on horses anyway in this part of the area. So like you bring them along more for like carrying gear, camping equipment, that kind of stuff. So it's not always on your backs along the way. And so it's summertime. So travel, it's not like it's particularly cold or anything like that. But more than once along the path, like as you're passing by the Chetwood, because the first day or so of travel northward, you know that you've been inside the Chetwood, and the Chetwood is about a day and a half to get from one side to the other, north, south to north, and you're kind of passing by it all along the way. The trees, kind of because of time and because no one's really paid attention to it, like you can see that the trees get closer and have overhang onto certain aspects of the greenway, and it certainly seems like some parts are much more shaded than others. Occasional stream, occasional pond, an occasional traveler who usually kind of keeps to themselves, pulls a cloak up, kind of wanders and shuffles off. But at first, your first couple of days travel closer to Bree isn't really an issue. Like you don't really have too much trouble whatsoever. Kind of making your movement. It's about on day 3 when, as you're traveling, when we'll hit our first event. So what I do is I determine. So for those of you who are watching this video and you want to figure out like how this is done, the lore master rolls a die to figure out who the event targets, and that determines it based upon the roll that they take. And so for me, I just rolled Scout. So Floy, you're going to roll again. Go ahead and roll an Explore test as you're getting further and further away from the hamlets. The road's kind of dying away even further. The grass is becoming more prevalent than the cobblestone and the stone of the road itself. So you're kind of losing track a bit of the road.
So I have useful gear as in maps that help my explore.
Is that what you wrote as the skill it's helping?
Skill? It helps explore it.
Yeah, if that's what you put down, yeah.
Yeah. So I have maps. How does that help again?
So it should give you an extra D6, I believe.
D6, okay.
Yeah. So between your maps, and so you can take your +1 on that, your bonus die, and then you can roll Explore.
Great success.
Wow.
Okay. So in addition to like figuring out who it targets, I'm also like the lore master's also kind of figuring kind of the type of event, what actually happens. So I'm rolling some of this. I'm rolling hidden. Okay.
Trying to read that face. What does that face mean for us?
It's actually pretty terrible first one actually.
Oh, that's not what I was hoping that face meant.
Yeah. So as you're traveling for a bit, you get north of the Chetwood. You can see that there's been some kind of an expanse of kind of like of empty grass meadow in between. When you reach like this northern copse of trees, you can kind of see it here on the map that there's this no-name forest to a degree. There probably does have names. I mean, the locals have them, or some of the smaller little homesteads that you've seen dotted around here and there. But as you're moving past Floy, you come across like this sort of huge gash in the road. This kind of large, like something kind of cut through the earth, and it kind of has this rupture of stone and grass. And it kind of takes a little doing for you all to get across, mainly because like there's sort of a precarious slope to the east and to the west of the road, and you kind of find yourselves on this sort of raised portion of the road for a bit, with kind of a split in between. All of you kind of start carefully like hopping across one at a time. You make sure that your pony is kind of careful as well. But Floy, as you're trying to kind of climb across, the weight of your mail is kind of keeping you down a bit. You're not as nimble as you would like to be. You're carrying one thing or another, and for some reason Gillian and Reniel seem obsessed with helping the pony across, but no one's reaching to give you a hand. And you go like kind of stumbling down into this gash in the road, and it kind of shoots you out on the eastern side of the road, and you go tumbling down this long slope, and you come slamming face first into hard rock, probably about 20 feet down the slope. So it's just this long tumble of this dwarfen male kicking one over the other, and you come
Here's ting ting ting.
ting 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 ting, and you come to a stop at the base of this small forest. You hear the sounds of like your tink 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 suddenly echoing out of the forest itself, as if someone's almost mimicking the sounds that you just made. As you get up, you start dusting yourself off. You realize, like, you look where your head landed, and you look like 2 inches to the right, and you can see this sharp stone on the ground where, had you just fallen 2 inches to the right, you could have lost an eye. But fortunately, you passed your roll, and that didn't happen, as this was terrible misfortune. You do, however, gain everyone gains 2 fatigue points. It's like the day is kind of slowed down a bit as you have to now try to get him back up this heavy, steep slope. Some combination of hands and ropes and things as you're slowly beginning to push him up. But you make a note to yourselves to be careful, maybe on your way back, to kind of make a larger swing around the road itself and around this kind of raged area. So 2 fatigue points to everybody.
And we keep track of that separately, right?
Yeah, so you should keep track of this separately. It'll be important when we get to the end.
Okay. Iridial,
Again?
just write it down separately. There's a section.
Okay.
For
You can write it down. There's travel load. You can keep track of it there if you want. But it'll be there's ways to mitigate that. So if you look on your sheet, there's on the Foundry character sheet, there is a section for load, and there's a smaller little box next to it that says travel load. You can track it there. You see,
Iridial's going to go yelling down the hill after Floyd just rolled down there.
So you start yelling down the hill, Iridial, as you're kind of slowly, you're not running, but you're yelling and maybe slowly trying to kind of creep down to give Floy up. But as you shout, Floy, you hear Iridial kind of shouting down for help, but then from the trees that your head just slammed down at the base of and eastward into this, what looks like a couple miles long forest, a little bit scattered at first, but then it gets darker and darker. You hear her voice like echoing back from those trees itself. It's just like you're hearing it from 2 different directions. Maybe you banged your head harder than you thought.
I'm down here, Reniel.
Would you go and roll down the hill for? This is not going to be easy to drag you back up again.
No, you're busy helping the horse over. Poor old me can barely step over that thing.
Fair point, but I mean, I think the horse would have needed more help than you, but I didn't expect you to go rolling down. Guess I'll know for next time. And Iriniel's like trying to carefully, like, kind of go down easily, almost like backwards, trying to get down. Does Iriniel notice this echoing happening?
Roll an awareness test.
Okay. Great success, 14.
Yeah, you do actually. As you get kind of further down, slowly working your way down, you actually hear the tail end of like you shouting, and then you actually hear almost like a gust of wind and then a whisper as like the very small words that you just were saying, they weren't yelling and you were just saying, well, yeah, I guess that's true. You hear that kind of come back to you on what sounds like a gust of wind coming out from within the trees. And you feel like this little shudder of coldness come over top of you.
Oh. And first, Irene will just be like, Floy, are you calling back?
What? No. It's just an echo.
There shouldn't be. And so Irene will just kind of yell out, hello?
You like wait and you wait, and as you're like shouting off into the forest itself, and you feel a gust of wind again come back out from within the trees. You hear the sounds of like the branches kind of smacking against one another, but you do not hear an echo. You just hear the wind this time.
Can Irene do like a lore check or something to see if the like voice on the wind rings in?
No. There's probably nothing you would be able to gain from that.
Okay.
You would know enough that there are, these lands are haunted in a way, right? Like there's ruins that dot the landscape here and there. There's sites of long forgotten battles, smaller battles and skirmishes amongst the larger war. One of the wars that Oswald mentioned, and among others. And so things linger, there's in the land and the buildings and such that have fallen to ruin, in the trees, like stuff lingers here and there. And so the idea that like that strange things occur, it's not an uncommon thing. It's why most people linger and don't leave Bree. Most people huddle around like these towns and kind of stick together. They don't really wander to the north. So there's nothing particular that you would be able to get with that lore test. So it's not worth rolling.
Okay.
Gilly's still up with her horse, and she's just like, you guys just see her kind of like put her hands on her hip and be like, hello, let's go.
You're by yourself?
Well, she's slowly making her way over.
I'm just kidding.
Just face. I'm like, Christ. The threat.
So you spend like half a day kind of getting, or not even half a day, a couple hours maybe getting them up. Then you have you break fast for the day, and eventually you clamber back up the slope, make sure everyone's got their things. More than once you hear that echo again, though, but it's inconsistent now. And it seems like any time you kind of send voice or send sound there intentionally, it doesn't echo back. But every time it's just like accidental or just loud enough, then it echoes back. It's a very strange and peculiar and inconsistent phenomenon, but nonetheless, kind of gives you a little bit of the creeps.
Disconcerting.
Yeah. So you end your day there. Maybe you travel a little bit further just to get put a little distance between you and it, and kind of camp out for the night. Yeah. Floy, you have to make another travel roll. So now that we've resolved one event, we do this again. And so we just kind of keep doing this over and over again until you get close enough so that you would actually reach your destination. So morning comes after a night, you kind of lick your wounds here and there.
I got another success.
And another basic success. Okay. All right. So let me do a couple rolls here. I can probably do this more efficiently in the future.
So is that our first overnight, or how many nights has it been?
It's basically one night a hex. I'll give you the full total when we get to the end.
Okay, just tracking my wound. Progress.
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, I'll give you the total when you find Talendil. Okay. This is also going to target scouts again. Yeah, this is the long phase. So another explore test, please.
In my map's like unlimited use. Is there a limit to that?
No, it's fine. You can keep using it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind. So you wake up in the morning and you realize that you, at some point between when you climb back up the slope and when you that kind of sat down for sleep that night, kind of camped out, you all have completely like lost the road. You wake up and you kind of feel around for it. You look for it, as in the sun is a little bit brighter now at night, as you're doing your last maybe mile or so, and was effectively dusk or twilight or whatever. You maybe lost sight of it here, and you kind of drifted a little bit further off to the east and off from the road, and you find yourselves kind of in this wide expanse of meadow. You can hear it in the sounds of the pony as its feet are no longer clopping on the hard rock and the cobblestone of the road itself. And it's more soft ground from time to time. You see scattered trees, bushes, things like that, some berries that you managed to pick on the way on the roads itself. More than once you see what looks like some kind of tower or building on the side. But you notice that when you wake up and you're kind of looking around for it, you have like just the clearest view kind of northward. You can see off to the east the kind of the weathered hills with their like old ruins of watchtowers in the very top are kind of sticking up, and the sun's coming up from behind them. This kind of glorious look to it. But it occurs to you, Floy, as you're kind of doing some small math here and there and taking the very clear view of these eastern hills, and then you look even further in the north, you could just see for just so much further than you could yesterday, where it was a little bit more overcast. And you're better able to triangulate, and you actually gain a shortcut. So it succeeded. So you get to reduce the length of the journey by 1 day. So it's kind of, you find this little bit of a shortcut as you begin to travel a little bit further.
Nice job, Floyd.
Now,
it was right here on this map. It's quite easy.
Oh, that's right. You've got your special maps.
He does actually have a special map. As you and conveniently, which interesting is that like it actually happens around the time in which the line that you guys drew is off the map itself, which is sort of funny. So I mean, technically you should do one more travel roll here, but as you get closer, you guys are actually able to see in the dusk as the sunlight goes down on another couple of days of travel, like through this like kind of thick and deep meadow. Again, scattered trees here and there, but mostly it's just been meadow. How about all of you go ahead and roll an awareness test, actually, before we settle down as you're passing by for the night?
Yeah, that's...
that's a fail.
Okay. No great successes, but I will say Floy and Gilly, as you're settling in for your, which you hope is the last night before you're able to kind of reach, you guys notice on the weathered hills to the east and to the south, you notice there's lights. Like, you can see it for miles, right? But you can see what looks like bonfires or something. You're not really sure, but the hills normally are dark, right? There's really not a whole lot, but there's activity up there. There's someone or something, and you can see these flames here or there, a couple on the two northernmost. Throughout the night, they stay there the whole time, and then come early morning before the sun rises, you can see they begin to dim. And more than once throughout the evening, you hear the sounds of kind of like far off drums from time to time that kind of wake you in the evening, giving you a little bit of an unsettling feeling. But fortunately, like, you found a very empty meadow. No real danger here. You found a few little chunks of boulder or perhaps old ruins. You're not sure which, that you're able to hide, kind of camp within before you're able to kind of get back on your trek northward. You can go ahead and do one more travel roll, Floy, I think, for where you guys have to end up. You have, I think, one more. As long as you pass, you should be fine. Okay, yeah, so you guys aren't good, actually.
Good thing.
So you guys are eventually going to start moving upwards a bit. Like, the meadow was relatively flat ground, easy travel. But after a day or so, you can feel the elevation just begin to slowly rise and rise to the point where like an hour's worth of travel kind of wins you in a way that, you know, before it didn't. And then like it's a little bit harder to kind of get the freaking pony to keep going here and there. More than once you feel your foot kind of sip down into into what looks like some kind of hole here or there within the hills and the rocks. The grass kind of tends to give way. These aren't rocky hills, but you can definitely tell that there's the signs of kind of old structure and old buildings and stuff, ruins here and there. You can see in the north as you're going that there's similar ruins of like watchtowers of some kind, where only maybe a small portion still remains intact. The second, the third levels have been kind of taken down from war, from erosion, from time, who knows. But as you kind of crest this fairly large but slow hill, you look off to the west and you all can see it now. You can see what looks like, at first you thought it was just kind of wasteland, but as your eyes adjust, you look down and you can see what looks like city walls, not all of which are intact. Towers, missing roofs here and there, rectangular buildings whose walls have been cut down on one side, what you imagine are likely roads sifting between them. You have a quite wonderful view of this place, but there's as if there's like a mist that seems to sort of pervade it, and you can't get a kind of a clear view. Even from here, though, you can tell there's something moving there. Might just be wind, might just be shadow. It's kind of hard to tell exactly, but you know you're in the right place. And so you've kind of reached the area where you know Talendil is supposed to either set up camp or range here and there. It's just a matter of kind of wandering about and kind of looking for them. So you're kind of looking, at this point, we're going to say the journey is over. You've kind of reached your destination.
Okay.
After the second, everyone should have taken 1 fatigue after that second event where you found the shortcut, by the way. So everyone should be at 3 fatigue. So now what we do is, guys, we weren't doing like the whole riding of mounts. We just were kind of using the pony as a thing. So we're going to skip that part. Everyone go ahead and make a travel roll to see if you can reduce your fatigue.
No.
Oh
Negative.
dear.
And there's
Yes.
Floy.
Flourish clutch. Okay, so Gilly and Aurinial, you can just lock in. You've got 3 fatigue. So put that in your travel load box. You're going to see that that's going to increase your load. So what this basically means is, because your fatigue increases your load temporarily, that means it's going to be easier for you to become weary as you lose endurance, right?
Got it.
Floy, you got a success. You can actually reduce yours by 1 since you got a success. And so you only have 2 travel load in the box. Make
I
sense?
think it always starts off rolling down a hill and then everything just comes
Yeah.
up roses after that.
But even rolling down, he succeeded because he didn't poke his eye out. So
That's true.
Yes, the first event was literally the worst event you can get. Terrible misfortune, but he passed the test. If he hadn't passed that test, he would have gotten wounded. So when he passed his Explorer
God.
test, he would have gotten wounded like Aurinial. But fortunately, he didn't.
Jeez.
So you guys are now in what's basically called like the North Downs, just east of Fornost. And so really you're out in the wild here and there. Aurinial, you might have been here at some point before, but you're kind of looking for any signs of Talendil. You're looking for activity, looking for somebody here that's supposed to be making it. So why don't all of you make
Can I
a roll.
hunting?
You're gonna
Looking-
hunt them down and kill them.
Looking for tracks or something.
You're looking for tracks. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah,
Isn't that a thing when I failed anyway, so.
you automatically failed. Yeah.
but you're
So
not
you're on-
miserable anymore, right?
Yeah, very
She's
good point.
yeah,
I
you're
failed
just
anyway.
wounded now. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You failed. You're unable to find any tracks that you think are humans, or anybody, but you do find plenty of tracks. Like there's actually ample wildlife here. You see rabbit tracks here and there, fox, other kind of small game, some of which you're as you're searching around these hills trying to find, we're going to kind of dip into like a mini little skill endeavor here. But as you're looking around to try any sort of, signs of anything beyond just animals, you're unable to. Now, Talendil, as far as you know, is a very skilled ranger, is far more experienced than you. And so finding him will not be easy. It might even be that he's more likely to find you guys before. So Floy, Gilly, how do you two want to try to go about helping to locate this Talendil fella?
I'm gonna go scan in the area, see if there's any disturbances or leftover equipment.
Yeah, go for it.
It's a success.
Okay. Floyd, you do in fact notice something as you guys are kind of keeping up all atop this like ridge line to the east, keeping Fornost on your west side, occasionally looking off into the valley to the southeast for any signs of someone coming out from under it. You do notice that on one of the hills, just northeast of the ruins of this city, you do notice what you think might have been a campsite where somebody has slept, or at least there's been some kind of activity here. The ground is disturbed. You can see that no grass really grows here. You don't really see, you see what looks like kind of like ivy over top of rock and things. It's as you're kind of poking around here, however, that, the three of you kind of pointed out to Arinial and Gilly, is you start to feel like the earth kind of crunch a little strangely underneath your feet. And it's then that like everything beneath you just gives way. And you can see like Arinial as you're looking over towards Floyd, and he's kind of poking around by what looks like this chunk of rock, this big boulder with vines growing over top of it. He's peeking around kind of maybe he's doing a squat and kind of looking at what might have been campground, old campfire, something like that. And it's at that point, like you just suddenly see him poof as he disappears. He just falls through the earth, Arinial.
Can I try to do some like an athletics or something to sort of dive, kind of like extend myself to try to catch him?
Sure. How close would you say you were to him, though?
Oh, I don't necessarily have to have been right there, but that's just sort of my goal, is that I'm trying to quickly get over to where he was. And
okay, so you quickly run over towards him. You want to roll athletic? Yeah, go ahead and roll athletics. That's fine. Just go ahead and roll it. We'll work it out.
Oh my gosh, I failed.
You go running over and you do a very heroic slide across the ground. You reach your hand out to try to catch Floy as he like kind of lingers Gandalf like at the edge. And then you grab him, but your momentum carries you over and the two of you go falling down. Gilly, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I'm gonna come over with my rope and my hook, and I'm gonna get like a good spot to like get my hook in, maybe like a tree or something, like test it, make sure it's sturdy, and then use that to help me lean over and see if they're okay.
Okay.
And, like how far they're down.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, Roger. Those rollings are bad. Though I think it works out great. All right, so why don't you roll like a craft maybe to try to sturdily tie this rope off? Maybe does craft sound okay to you, or did you have something else in mind?
No, craft works.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Hey, Arberlin, I just noticed you came in.
That's a failure.
Oh no.
So
this is pretty hilarious, actually.
Oh God.
So you wrap your
It's my equipment. It's my rope and hook. So it's a
go ahead
rope with grappling hook to climb.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can roll if you want. So this is more about placement. So it's less about climbing. You're just about trying to like find a good like rock or tree or whatever. There's no trees in the area, but here's what happens. You take your grappling hook and your rope, and you go over towards that rock, that boulder that Floy was kind of inspecting,
no.
and you wrap it around and you kind of lean over. And as you do, you realize, kind of in sort of shock and horror, as the boulder begins to slip and kind of like bend in the middle, and you realize it wasn't a boulder at all, but just some really old ruinous rock, a series of stone. It wasn't even natural. It's like something, it was like a ruin of something, like a wall that was protruding up out of the ground, and it collapses. And as it does, you go tumbling down as well. So the three of you just go one after the other, thum, 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 and you drop a good 20, 30 feet. And you look around at the very bottom. It's dusty. It's dark. You got bruises. Each one of you, go ahead and roll. Go ahead and roll athletics to prevent taking some endurance damage as you make this fall.
Yay, I succeeded.
There you go, Reniel. Good to go. Oh,
just
poor
got it.
Gilly. Gilly, roll a d4. Trying to be heroic.
That's a 3.
Take 3 points of off your endurance there as you go tumbling down last. And maybe the problem is like Irinial, Floyd are able to kind of carefully like bounce off the walls and contort yourselves in such a way as not to take too much of a hit. Gilly, you were trying to be heroic. You were trying to like wrap the rope down and kind of look over. But as you pull it, like the whole wall pulls down with you, and like
on
stones
top
and
of me.
yeah, and it's right on top. Floy, Renil, you're able to kind of unbury her a bit. But you look around and you guys realize that you are buried deep within what, definitely has signs. It's very dark down here, but there's still some light coming down. You're a good 20, 30, maybe even more. You're in what looks like some kind of, chamber. You can see what looks like rock on, the mixture of like rock and stone. Like there's mortar. Like you're in maybe some kind of cellar, some basement, some sort of storage facility of a long abandoned outpost of some kind. Maybe it was a home on the outskirts of the city, a rich person's home overlooking the, on the hills overlooking the city. You're not sure exactly, but you're some kind of buried chamber. Oh, too old to twitch. That was good. Middle Earth.
Working our way down.
But you guys are, you're trapped down here. You look around. It's not like you're in like some big dungeon. It looks like this really kind of dark, dusty, dirty chamber. All of you are covered in what looks like grime. Occasional bits of roots that are seeping out between a few of the bricks that are laying the foundation. You do notice that there's like caked dirt on the walls climbing up. And so every time you try to just climb up simply, you fall back down a little bit here and there.
Welcome, Raiders.
Thank you for the raid there. Was it Valdrianth? Very much appreciate that. We are playing the One Ring second edition tonight. They have just fallen down a hole, and in spectacularly comic ways.
I went sliding and sliding. As soon as I failed, I pictured it in my head. Like I'm just sliding. Like
I know. I just picture you just slide like. I picture like Floyd's like climbing up, and he's about to be okay. He's like, oh, that was close, and all of a sudden, like Iriniel's there, and just like tumbles into you and takes you both down.
It's kind of like a water slide.
Yeah.
I forgot about the morning dew on the grass. Just like kept sliding. So Iriniel wants to try to do the go backwards and then try to run up the side, try to like get some momentum and see if that works.
All right, go ahead and roll athletics, but I'm gonna penalize 1d6 as the walls themselves are kind of coated with dirt. So take a 1d6 penalty die. So so you guys watch as Iridial tries to parkour up the side of the wall, and as she does, she gets like 2 steps up, her foot gives way, and like you can see up to her ankle, her boot goes into the wall as dirt is ripped out, and she just falls backwards onto her ass.
Yep. No. Even when I rolled the d6s, that still got me nowhere close.
How do you guys want to get out of here?
So looking around down here, there's not much.
Oh yeah, you can definitely see what looks like ruins of like old building components. You can see like there's large chunks of stone, like long decayed like wood beams and stuff that are almost like as you pick them up and they kind of crumble in your hands, like as they've sort of dried out over time. What looks like very, very rusted tools from time to time here and there. Nothing that would be very useful, more or at least more useful than what you already have. What looks like shattered pottery of some kind. You can see what looks like kind of clay that has been shattered into various pieces.
Maybe we can do like a little human ladder, see if we can get Gilly out first.
Okay. So you want to pop Gilly onto your shoulders and you want to get on top of Ariniel's shoulders? Is that what you want to do? Okay. All right.
Maybe Floyd needs to be the base.
Yeah, maybe
That was my thought too.
Okay. So Floyd, the sturdy dwarven base, Ariniel, you climb on top, and then Gilly, you're on top as well. All right. So Gilly, you're gonna make the roll, but you'll get a bonus of 2d6 because you've got the two of them.
Okay.
Actually, no, wait, that's not how it works, is it? Somebody else has to make the roll, don't they?
Would it be
Floy or
Floy's as the base?
as the base, yeah. Floy, why don't you go ahead and roll like athletics here? This sounds like
This is not assisted.
this isn't. You're assisting her, so is what's
Okay.
happening. You're assisting Gilly as Gilly is going. You're gonna try to make a sturdy base, and okay.
Oh no.
So Floy, you're there. Ariniel climbs on top of your shoulders. She's sort of swaying. Gilly climbs up as well, and you can feel her kind of tugging on the back of your back on your hair in the back, where you're like your curly hair is like. Argh! And that's when you look over and you realize Ariniel never like cleaned off her boot, and so you look over and you can see that on your right shoulder it's just like mud and grime, and it kind of gets all in your beard, and you're like. Get all mad at that point, and that shakes everything, and the whole tower comes down. Gilly as well. Actually, no, Gilly, you actually get to make the roll. You just don't. You'll see if you get up. So go ahead and roll athletics, but you don't get any help from him.
Okay, but I have my I still have my item.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it came down with you.
yeah. So when I'm up there, could I like try and like I don't know if this will actually work, but
Just
like whirl
blindly.
it up and just like blindly throw it up there and see if I can pull myself up.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So
Bumps the jaw. Yeah, that'd be terrible. Oh my
No.
god.
Oh no.
so did we? Okay, yeah, it's to the right of it. So because it gives me 1d6, right? Yeah, I
Should
don't-
yeah. It's a bonus die. Yeah.
Damn it!
Oh no.
So-
Athletics are not my specialty.
You do like a lasso twirl, and then and right as you go to start pulling, that's when the tower tumbles. And you're hanging on for dear life, and you're like, "Grr!" and
And
you
I
think
just
you've
kind of,
got
like-
something, and you what are you doing? No, go ahead. What do you?
It's like it doesn't go all the way up. I like maybe get like a root or something, and then I just kind of like and I hit a wall.
You're just kind of hanging there.
But I'm just like 4 feet above the ground. Like I'm not up there.
Feet dangling like 3 inches off the ground. Help me! Okay, you guys are still stuck down here. Other
Yes, we
thoughts?
are.
And this is how the campaign ends.
I know.
You just
Who-
starve and
We go all
hole
yellow
in the
jackets,
ground.
and one of you eats the other. Yeah.
It'll be me.
Okay. So I'm thinking.
You guys hear a crackle,
Oh no.
and suddenly the rain begins to fall.
We're
We
gonna
just wait
drown.
for the rain to fill us up and we can just float out.
We'll just swim. I like
There's
it.
one way to
I
do
like
it.
How about I just
All
start
right,
like beating
Irene.
the walls down for like make the hole wider, so there's like
Yeah.
there's enough dirt to climb out.
Okay, sure. Give me a roll, whatever you want. Craft, maybe.
Right.
Trying to find places along the walls as you're going up. Oh my goodness.
Seriously, we
I
can't.
really-
Maybe just like collect like some dirt or some rocks, and we'll make like a little pile.
You guys don't forget, by the way, it's been a while since we played. It's been a couple weeks, but you can spend hope to become inspired or you spend hope to get an extra bonus die. If it's applied to one of your distinctive features, you can become inspired, which means you get your 2 bonus die. Don't forget to use your resources here, and you still have 1 fellowship point as well. So there's resources that you could potentially use here. But yeah, so like Floyd starts hammering into the walls here and there, and as he does, stuff just starts to tumble like he intended, but it starts raining bricks and stone on you guys from above, and it becomes kind of this dodge, like you're kind of dodging and moving. That's when you hear the sound as you're hammering into a wall a bit, Floy, and you kind of knock through a wall, and you can see like a hole opens up, maybe about a foot across, and this kind of warm, dusty breeze just comes whooshing at it right into your face, and you can kind of feel almost like a heat unexpectedly hit you. And you hear through that hole, you hear a voice like this from somewhere on the other side of that. Iriniel and Gilly, both of you roll a lore test. Yeah.
Let's see.
Do we have any bonus die left, or did we use those all up?
From last week, I think you're done.
If
Yeah,
we
I
do,
think
we
you're
have
done.
1 left.
You might have 1, yeah. You could have
Yeah.
1. You'll say you have 1. Man, Iriniel, keeping those automatic successes. Iriniel, you would know that your people, or at least the people, so the Dunedain and such, not necessarily you specifically, but some of the other rangers here and there who descend from a kind of historic lineage here. When they laid their dead down, it was usually in barrows, like in these mounds. So it wasn't like a graveyard. It wasn't a tomb necessarily. It was in like these barrow mounds and things like that. So it's not uncommon. You're in the hills right now. It's certainly possible you could have accidentally found yourself in some kind of old tomb. Who knows?
Oh goodness. Iriniel will just sort of mutter like apologies for the disruption.
Okay. You mutter an apology through the... Okay.
And Iriniel will try to Iriniel will ask if anybody has a sword.
Oh, thanks to old Twitch.
A
A
sword?
sword or a spear that I can borrow.
Yeah, we got a spear.
Have one, right?
You got one?
Yeah.
Okay. So can I try and get an extra dice to just do, because I noticed when Gilly was trying to kind of throw that it kind of landed into the wall and stuck. So Aurelian wants to try to kind of use her sword and Floy's spear to try to get it to stick and kind of climb up that way. So with a little bit of assistance from kind of having an extra.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. What's that? Probably athletics. We'll say maybe 2. I'll give you 2, 1 for each item you're using as you're trying to climb up.
All right. Let's see how that goes.
You hear, by the way, Floy, as she's doing this, like the sound of this, whatever. It might just be the wind. It might be something else. Is getting a little louder and closer. So go ahead, Iriniel.
Oh goodness. Okay, so I should have 5d6s. So let's see if this rolls properly.
Okay. If it doesn't, you can. Iriniel should be miserable. I like the warning.
What?
Alright,
Oh,
let's
because
see.
because I clicked the wrong thing and it spent to hope. That's why. Because I didn't
Okay.
want to spend hope. I was just trying to get the d6
Okay.
proper.
You're still very successful, and as you're able to one by one kind of climb your way up, stabbing into the side of the rock, sword, spear, spearhead, sword, spearhead, sword, spearhead, giving you that extra sturdiness as you use the two, Floyd, Gilly, the two of you watch as Irinial climbs up the side of this pit that you now find yourselves in. And we'll assume that Irinial, you probably either have your own rope or you took Gilly's rope and you lower it down. And we don't have to do any more rolls at this point, but one by one, you kind of climb slowly but surely back up. The rain's coming down at this point. There's a little bit of an overcast. You kind of start to back away from this hole in the ground. And that's when you hear a kind of what sounds like clapping at one point. You just hear a... You kind of look around for it, kind of scan, and there's other rocks and stuff in the area, a couple bushes here and there, these kind of wiry bushes from time to time. And that's when you hear kind of a voice just come almost out of nothing. You just hear, I would have thought you all grave robbers, but you're much too loud. You make enough noise to wake the dead. And I would prefer that you did not do such a thing this night. They're already too restless as it is. And you still can't kind of catch exactly where it's coming from. And then just sort of stepping out from the side of one of these tall boulders or stacks of rock, almost as if blending into it, you see a man in his 60s, 70s, his hair, this tangled mess of brown and gray. He's got this dark green cloak and kind of brownish armor that seems to be underneath it. Swords, weapons everywhere. Dirt on his face. No beard, just kind of looks like these stark blue eyes. And he just looks out at you all and he just says, all right, come, let's get away from here. This is not a good place to linger.
Thank you. Talendil?
Mm-hmm. He just nods. Hurry now. Let's go. The pony, too.
I'll hurry up, get my horse, my little pony, and I'm following.
Okay. So he kind of leads you off a bit and away from that area, and every now and then he kind of looks back over his shoulder. You're not sure if it's whether to just make sure you guys are all following, or... At one point, you get the sense that he's looking beyond you all, to what's behind you or something like that. Yeah. But after about an hour, he kind of parks you within what looks like this old series of standing stones of some kind, almost like a Stonehenge type setup. And you can see that he's got some small little like bedrolls and things that are kind of hidden in a pack that he has tied off into a bush. You still have a fairly good view, it looks like, of the city from here. At this point, the rain is still starting to fall. It's still falling, but it's much darker now. And he's like, all right, this will be... You can camp here for the night, and then you can return wherever it is you had to go before, but I would kindly ask that you vacate the premises as quickly as possible.
Well, actually, where we had to go was to find you. That's what we were doing when we fell down over there. We were actually looking for you.
He gets this wry smile on his face. He looks at you, and then he looks down at Floy, and then even further down at Gilly, and he's like, a hobbit, a dwarf, and a ranger are looking for me.
Yeah, yes, we come from Oswald Breaker.
So, the old man sent you, did he? Well, old man's relative, I suppose. Okay, out with
Gilly,
it.
Elbows you because you have the note that he gave.
Yeah. Oh, right. This is from directly from his hand. And I'll pass
So
it the note.
He takes it from you and he goes dwarf, make yourself useful. Start us a fire. You, little one. If you go down that hill right there, there's some bushes at the base. Berries. Very sweet. Go collect some.
Come on, off with you. Let's
Yep.
go.
She goes.
Okay. So he unfolds this note and he kind of leans up against one of the walls while Floyd's like there making the fire. Periodically his eyes like peek up above the note and kind of look over it. You kind of see him grimace a little bit here and there. Looks at Iriniel from time to time, eyes you up and down. You're not appraising looks, but his face is almost unreadable, right? That's curious. That explains a few things. So why did, as Gilly, you're coming back, you got this like big bowl of like, this big thing of like berries comes up, and he's like, so why did Oswald send the three of you? It's not a kind thing to send children off on an errand like this one.
We've actually been quite useful to the folks around Bree and Combe recently. And we're doing what we can to help out. And Oswald really thought that there should be some warning coming up this way with that map going missing and whatnot.
Yeah, especially with the hill folk. Messing around with orcs and stuff. They've been cavorting. As like Gilly is like sorting, like getting like twigs and stuff off the berries and stuff.
Very useful you've been, huh? Well, when you pick the berries, don't pick the whole darn branch. You want them to regrow themselves.
As he starts kind of going through your find and kind of correcting some of your mistakes, flicking this off and there. And he kind of goes over towards Floyd and he's like, and he kind of shakes his head. He starts putting like this ring around it just to make sure like this fire is going to die out with it. Kind of correcting everything everybody does. Very like curmudgeonly old man, like mansplaining his thing to everybody and sort of a, not in like a, could have definitely a jerk way, but kind of a.
It totally
Okay.
goes over Gilly's head, and she just takes it as like useful information. And she's like, okay, and she's like writing it in her notes.
You know what's in this note?
No, we didn't read it.
He speaks kindly of the three of you, actually. Says, you three saved his life. Is that true?
That's how I got this, and I've got some,
Yeah,
No.
if he didn't get attention, he would have died.
No. Oswald is he's a good man, and curmudgeonly maybe, but not without good reason. Life decided to take his wife just far too soon, I suppose. And but he's a very intelligent man, more so than most of the lot who makes up those villages down there. Reads history, love of his. Any of you consider yourselves intelligent folk?
we're still
In
learning.
battle, maybe.
In battle? Warrior amongst us, this dwarven warrior. Whereabouts you from, dwarf? Blue
The hills
Mountains to the west? The arid Luane. What brings you to this neck of the woods?
Doing work for Balin. Call for a favor.
Now you found yourself up here. There's not much treasure down there, if that's what you're thinking. At least not the kind that's gonna fill up your vaults. It's a different kind of treasure down there. Story, history, sadness and tragedy. Nothing shiny. Nothing gold. Well, maybe a wee bit of gold. But if you try to go looting it down there, well, we're going to find out just how good of a warrior you are, aren't we?
You can tense like it's a very polite threat
Mm-hmm.
at you, Floyd. He's like singled you out for this specifically.
Well, if you don't want me to go poking, just say so.
I think I just didn't I?
And Gilly's like, she doesn't handle the like hostile energy very well, so she tries to like redirect
So much
the conversation.
testosterone suddenly, just like.
Yeah.
Whoosh.
She was like, this is weird. Okay. She's like, because Oswald was saying they stole the map of Fornost.
Well, according to this, you stole a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
Drawings,
Do you
journals of
have
folks that
guessed-
used to live within the city.
Mm.
These are priceless artifacts. I told him more than once they're probably not suited for just some random bumpkin's home. He should send him over to a proper place like Rivendell. But now. Very possessive he was. Now look what's happened. These aren't just some easy trinkets you can replace by wandering into the village square for the weekend. These are priceless, one of a kind. And his arrogance has led to their capture and their possible loss. But yeah, maps.
What
Can't say how accurate they were.
What would the hill folk or the orcs want with Fornos?
Well, it's hard to say, really, to be honest. It's probably whatever's in the Arvaduin's chambers, I suppose. I don't know whether they think there's treasure down there or something. I certainly ain't seeing stones, as I have been there for generations. But likely, whatever they want's in the chambers buried beneath his palace. It's kind of dark now, but you might be able to see it. And he points down to like sort of the center of the city where there's just like this massive rubble as if it kind of imploded upon itself. Yeah, right beneath, down that heap, right down there. It's supposed to be some sort of private chambers. Massive library, collection of things, artifacts of sort. Could be that. Probably that. Might be something else. For a time, they occupied the city. Maybe they left something behind, looking to retrieve it. These weren't just your average treasure hunters, grave robbers. If what you say is true, there's some sort of coordinated effort. I'm less concerned about what they're trying to get and a little bit more concerned about who's driving them to get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not the only strange circumstances and rumours I've heard of late. You, what is your name again? He looks down at Auriniel at this point.
Name's Auriniel.
You made a range to the Lone Lands. You gazed on the grey wastes at Angmar. Have you done any sort of thing like that before?
Done some travel, yes.
That sounds like a no to me. Well, some of our kin, rumour has it, and I certainly hope it's a rumour, a chill wind has been blowing down from the northeast. Apparently, fires glow once more in Cardoon. Shadows move about in the grey waste, but I've not seen it for myself. I have other duties to attend to. And he kind of nods down towards Fornost. But apparently, word has it, something stirs in Angmar. Now you all are here with stories of orcs and goblins and hill folk that haven't been active in 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I'm getting stories about lots and The ruins of a long dead city, and it's not this one that I'm referring to.
And there's
Bit
not
concerning.
much of a response from the cities.
Those aren't cities. That's a city down there, or at least it was. You've got some handful of sticks and stones beaten together with a bunch of scared little children. And I'm not just talking about the wee ones, I'm talking about all of them. There's wardens down there. They see an orc or a goblin, they're as liable to wet their pants as do anything useful.
Well,
Most of
you
the time.
may think there's
most
not much of us, but we've been doing our best.
You've got a broken jaw, and I just watched the three of you spend 2.5 hours trying to get out of a hole you fell down.
At least we're trying.
You try crawling out of a hole after traveling for 5 days.
I wouldn't have fell down it to begin with. But I'll take your point.
Don't learn to crawl out of a hole until you fall down a few.
Okay, that's probably a proverb in there somewhere.
And Gilly just kind of pops up. We just are getting more proof that something is amiss to bring more information to Balin. Because even along our way here in the Weather Hills, there were drums and bonfires. And she just kind of like stops kind of thoughtfully as she like worries her lip. It's
Don't worry, you're fine right now. There's plenty of orcs and goblins off east. Saw them just a few days. Hanging about in the woods north of the Weather Hills. Sometimes at night they go up. Seem to be searching for something. Looking, roaming. Odd behaviour, if you ask me. Then, wait for it. He's kind of like looking down at the town as it's like getting dark. Wait for it. What? And then as he's kind of looking down, that's when you see it. You see like kind of lights begin to pop up here and there, like torch lights. And there they go. 4, 5 of them maybe. Might be the folk you helped dispatch. And you can see that there's like people moving about in the ruins. Like you can't see them anymore. You can more just kind of see like torchlight or lantern light. Well, might be the very folk you all been chasing and whatnot. What say we fill our bellies a bit and we head on down there and we ask them what they're looking for. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right then. How's cooking? He kind of cracks his knuckles a bit. And we'll go ahead and end it there, I think, for tonight. And then we'll tackle the city of Fornost tomorrow or next week. And all
Let's
those
not fall in
lights.
any holes on the way down again.
Yeah, I didn't expect that to happen. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty terrible. All right, we'll go ahead and stop there. We're a little bit past our 2 hours, so we'll end there. But I think that we should be able to. Well, we'll see how it goes. Like my goal was like 4 episodes, and then Fellowship 4 episodes, but it looks more like it's gonna be 5. But that's fine. We're kind of doing a lot of learning as we go go through the different phases and things like that.
Figured out our journey.
Did we do closing fatigue? Did I do like the fatigue and stuff for you all?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I have 3 fatigue.
All right. So let's get the hell out of here then. So before we go, for those of you that are still hanging out in the channel and watching, appreciate you hanging out, appreciate you throwing some bits our way, and just appreciate the raid. We will continue this next week. We'll kind of get to the bottom of it. We're getting a random bunch of name drops here and there. And we're gonna go, it sounds like, into this abandoned city / ruin of Fornost next week. And 2 people are almost out of hope.
one person already has a broken jaw. So I'm sure this is going to go great. And you've got, but at least you got like this jerk old ranger with you that might help you, or he'll just leave you the minute you fall into a hole. Yeah.
But now we know how to get out of a hole. Swords and spears.
Okay, fair enough.
Swinging our way up.
So let's see, what's next for us? Monday, we're going to be back on this channel playing Alien. So we've been off from that for like a month. So we're going to get back to that. We're closing down at the end of chapter 3, our Marine chapter. So that's going to be pretty close. Could end on Monday. But likely it might take 2 or 3 more sessions. So we'll see. Then next Friday, I think we're going to be able to start up the final chapter of our Impossible Landscapes campaign for Delta Green.
Yay!
I have no idea what's gonna happen.
Really excited to see where that goes. I think we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then Saturday we'll be back for this. So there's that. But yeah, thanks for everyone who hung out tonight. Thanks for the raid. Thanks for the bits. Thanks for just kind of chilling and watching. If you're watching this on YouTube later, thanks for checking it out. If you see any corrections, if there's anything we're doing wrong, get any of the rules wrong or stuff, throw us a comment on YouTube or something like that, and we'll make a correction here or there. But otherwise, that's it for us. We'll go ahead and raid somebody so you can kind of keep watching somebody this Saturday evening. But we'll catch you next time. Throw it on the end screen. We'll do the raid. Click the follow raid button thingy, and we'll go from there. So, bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.